All right, let's get started. Welcome. Last month, we talked about one piece of the sales ecosystem. There's a lot. We talked about sales leadership, accountability, setting expectations, activities, quotas, having quality one-on-one meetings. This month, another really important piece is the sales process, having an effective and repeatable sales process. So we'll jump right in. The first thing I wanted to show is we last year there was a assessment that was sent to about close to 5,000 small to medium-sized businesses, and that's really all I work with. I've been in sales leadership for over 25 years, and now in the last 4 or 5, 100% of my time is really from a fractional leadership perspective. Sales leadership is working with that $2 to $3 million up to $50 million type of company. And those are the same companies that took part in this survey and assessment last year, filling out what the challenges are to their business and the state of their business and so forth. Now, I talk to business owners literally weekly. Some of these answers aren't too surprising, but they're still eye-opening nonetheless. You can see 84% of the respondents didn't really have a good handle on their ICP, their ideal customer profile. Who is in our sweet spot? Who is our best customer we want to engage? That's really important. Number two, value proposition. Again, a foundation of any company. 85% not having a clear or updated value proposition. And basically, what do we sell? What do we stand for? What's our mission statement? What problems do we solve? And then why are we unique? Why should you choose our products or company over others, right? Those are very high-level pieces of the value proposition. Competitor insights may sound obvious, and most people think they know who their competitors are, but it's smart every 6 months to a year and really constantly understanding what the competitors are doing in the marketplace. Depending on what market you're in, things are changing quickly, and it may shift how you talk about your products, your value proposition, who you're going after, if a new competitor certainly arises in your landscape. And then lastly, the topic of today is sales process. And this is not really a surprise. Again, talking to a lot of CEOs or founders where they don't typically have a established sales process that's repeatable, that's on paper, and that there's a discipline behind it. So that's one of the reasons why I chose this, but that's a pretty big number. And you can see in that picture, I don't judge anybody. I enjoy what I do, and my mission is to help typically small business owners. But you can see in that picture, there's a person that has wearing a lot of hats. And typically founders in a smaller to medium-sized company are in fact wearing a lot of hats: IT, website, managing the sales team, running the company, HR. So it's hard to keep track of everything. So that's why some of these things get missed. And that's where hopefully some of these insights will help your business. Lastly, going back to that rating, 79% of all of the folks in those small to medium-sized businesses noted that they rated themselves poor when it comes to having an overall, sales foundation. So again, area for improvement, and that's why hopefully these calls will be productive. Now, some quick observations when it comes to what I'm seeing out there. And I just kind of mentioned the first one. A lot of founders I talk to, the nature of the business, are wearing the sales hat in the organization, which really can be hard because it pulls them away from other things. And a lot of times you just can't roll your sleeves up with sales when you're doing other things. Some of the things that I see get missed, there's not enough time to just, to establish all the sales structure, value proposition, well-defined SOPs, understanding the grind and prospecting in the CRM. There's a lot of pieces that can get missed. It's just a lot going on. Like we talked about last workshop, being able to have quality one-on-ones and have the time for a team meeting every week, one-on-one meetings, talking about the pipeline, what's getting in your way, coaching moments. Those things a lot of times can be difficult to maneuver through. I've also seen, just because there's a lot on people's plates and it's hard, is hiring. That's a really important thing to do, obviously, is take the time to hire the right people. But when you're wearing so many hats and there's so much going on, I've seen that process get rushed. So that's something else sometimes to be on the lookout for, to try to take your time. So, and when it comes to the sales process, I've just seen it too many times where you might have 5 people on your team, and 3 of them are doing their own thing. They're figured out. They think they know how to do it, but that causes confusion. There's no consistency. You can upset other parts of the company when it comes to operations or shipping or whatever it may be, or sales support, where everybody's doing different things. So that's part of the reason why we're here today. And you can see on the right, these are all different aspects or building blocks that make up the sales structure or ecosystem. And my goal is to hopefully have a workshop on each one of these. We've done a couple so far, but you can see, having a functional sales department isn't always easy, but there are a lot of pieces to it. Having the right mission, your ICP, having a lead generation, not only for new customers, but taking care of your current customers, sales process, having the right compensation plan, managing your team, coaching and development. All those things play into it, and they all interact together. But I just wanted to show you and note that on the right of your screen. Now, sales process basics, high level to start. The first thing you want to make sure you have is a defined, repeatable process. Is it on paper? Is there something visual, which I'll show you in a minute, that really spells out all the different steps along the way, not only for the company, but each salesperson? You also want to make sure it works. It sounds kind of goofy, but it depends on, if you're a younger company or you've been around for a number of years, you want to make sure you're taking the best of what has worked in the past. And that might still be talking to salespeople, modeling some of the things that we know work for you, but you want to make sure it's effective. You want to then, once you set up a process, you need to make sure the sales team buys in on it. Do they understand it? Do they understand each step? Do they understand why you should have a sales process, right? And how to navigate clients through that, because you need to have them on board as well. This should be big picture, again, a call to action on each step, so clients and prospects can move through that process. We'll talk a little bit about it, but I've been in sales a long time, and I get questions a lot. What do I do when I get ghosted, or I had a good introductory meeting or a good demo, and then the client won't talk to me again, or the prospect? So if you do things the right way, in the right order, and ask the right questions, it will prevent ghosting. It will never go away, but there are ways you can get in front of that to keep that prospect engaged throughout the entire process. And lastly, big picture, your sales process should be aligned with your CRM. And we'll talk about that, but they should go hand in hand. So it's cohesive and consistent, and it's organized for you, where you can pull things up very quickly and look at the rest of your team. Here's an example of a sales process. Now, I want to say, as a disclaimer, everybody's company is different. They have different steps. I've worked with clients where the sales cycle could be 7 months, and it's 7 different steps, and you have to be very deliberate. I've worked with other businesses where there's only 4 steps, and it takes 2 months or 1 month. So there's no right or wrong answer. I'm just trying to give you a visual of how this can look, and you'd want to bring your process into this, and I'm certainly willing to help you. On the upper left there, you can see, once again, I just want to put out there, when you talk about the top of the funnel and bringing leads or prospects into it, your value proposition, your story, how you're positioned, what your value is, what problems you solve, the way your sales teams talk about the products and the services all play a role. Are you talking to the right ideal customers? Do you have the right lead generation, whether it's phone calls, door-to-door, email campaigns, leading people to the website? All those things matter to have them in order, so you get more leads that will go into the top of the funnel. So those are things we can talk about on other calls and in person if we want to, but I just want to put those because they're still important and they all play a role. Now, as you see down in the process here, the first step, as you can see, that first circle, really is that first qualified lead, meaning somebody called back, they answered an email, they might have filled out a form on your website, they answered a phone call, or one of your salespeople went out there and visited that particular business, and they're interested. They want to have a dialogue. That's great. That's what we want, right? A qualified lead. The next step typically in the start really of the sales process is that first meeting, right? It's that introductory meeting. It could be in person, it could be virtual, it could be on Zoom, where you have that, again, that first correspondence with that particular prospect. That's when things start, when you can actually do that. And typically that's an introduction meeting, or I like to always say it's a discovery meeting, right? And there is a art and a science to conducting a very good discovery meeting. That's going to be a separate workshop altogether. But again, that is the most important part. It sets the tone for the process, the way you're going to go about and correspond with that particular prospect. You want to introduce yourself. You want to lower their guard, get to know their business, be intentional, and let them know, hey, this meeting is not about us. It's about you. I really want to take a good portion of this discovery meeting to understand your unique needs in your business, your goals, your challenges. Our approach isn't a cookie cutter approach. So we want to craft a solution based on your unique needs. So when you set the table for that and you tell them, I'm not here to take an order today, if that's a particular type of business you're in, you've lowered their guard. Now you can start asking questions and taking notes and really understanding what problems they may have that you can solve. All right. So that's that first discovery meeting. Typically, after that, you want to set the table. It could be a demo. It could be if you're selling software. It could be something that you're going to do a separate meeting, share your screen, and walk them through a software program. If you're in a device or medical, it might be a meeting at your office. I'd like to set up next week where I can come in, speak to your staff, show you this product, and show you how it works clinically. So that's like that next step typically that can happen in the sales process. And then at that point, there might be some thinking that has to happen. There could be approvals that needs to happen. There could be a second meeting. A lot of times, depending on the sales process, where you want to discuss financials, any open questions, talk about ROI. You may walk them through a quote and so forth. The next step could be negotiation, active discussion. So after you present a quote and they haven't closed yet, it's kind of that in-between process where they've received it, we're having conversations, I'm answering questions. It's pretty warm at that point, but we're not totally at close. Then, of course, you can move to close. And depending on your business, there could be an onboarding step and something you want to do later on as far as following up. So I'll pause there, but I think it's good to have something visual, number one. The goal, of course, is to move somebody through the process, right? It's really important as a tip to take pauses at different steps of the sales process. Meaning, in the discovery, one of your main goals is to understand really what's most important for that particular prospect. And then you want to regurgitate it back to them. So I'm paraphrasing, but near the end of that first discovery meeting, you want to say, all right, thank you, Bob or Sarah, for your time. If I understand it correctly, the things that are most important to you are ease of use. I want it to be connected with my mobile phone, and I want to make sure I have customer support. Does that sound right? If you get acknowledgement of the 3 or 4 things that are most important, take note of those, and you're going to use those as you move forward through the sales process. So for instance, after you present the quote or you have the first demo, you want to pause and say, Bob, I want to go back to our original meeting. You mentioned these 3 things were important to you. Are you feeling better about those questions you had? You want to get acknowledgement and agreements. Otherwise, you really shouldn't be moving forward. One of the biggest reasons why people get ghosted along the sales process is you didn't slow down, you didn't listen, and you didn't ask for feedback. Because many times prospects will yes you and nod up and down and say everything's great. But if you don't get some feedback from them along the way, they may go through a couple steps of the process. But if you're not engaged with them and not connected and getting feedback, most likely a good portion of those will just drop off because you really didn't pause and speak to them and maybe answer their objections that they didn't want to tell you because you didn't ask. So again, this could be something that's talked about for hours, but I'm just trying to give you a few things that are important to pull out of that first discovery meeting. Because if you can pick out the 3 things that are most important to them or objections, And then the next step or two, you ask if you've answered those questions. If you've taken away those three objections, you are now in a better place to now move to close. Otherwise, you don't have permission. So I'm going to stop there, but that's something that I would say is really important for this process. Lastly, when we talk about the next step, you know what the next step might be in the process. They don't. But I also like to have the prospect feel like they are helping to navigate it. So a lot of times I would say something like, the next step in the process that most of our customers have enjoyed is speaking to one of our customers, or hearing a couple testimonials about clients who are using this device. Would that be something interesting to you? And a lot of times they'll say yes. So a lot of times if you feel like they're not really sure about a product and what's important to them is speaking to a current owner or seeing how someone else is using it in their business, that should prompt you to bring that up, that you want to put that in front of them so you can, again, reduce that objection. Lastly, on this slide here, I have in those yellow boxes, part of the sales process could also be automations in terms of emails. So after somebody answers a lead and they've acknowledged they want to have a meeting, that could prompt you to send an email to them, thanking them for their time, acknowledging when the appointment is, and before the appointment next week, here's a video to take a look at our product in the meantime, right? Keep that warm. There could be a video clip between step 2 and step 3. I'm being general, but this is all part of the process where you can have these automatic prompts to keep that prospect engaged. Okay. Next, we talked about having your sales process align with your CRM. So here's an example, and I've seen this many times and help clients set this up and refine it. Each one of these percentages are the percentage or likelihood or confidence that this prospect will close, right? So when you get your first, lead or qualified lead, that's really low, right? They just started talking to us. That's 10%. If you have that first discovery meeting and they show up and they don't ghost you, okay, now we're starting to move our way through this process. That's 25%. If you've done the next step, which again, it could vary for each company, and they do that demo, all right, they're moving along further in the process, percentages go up and up, right? Once you present a quote and you have permission to do that and you feel good about that they're engaged, that's 75%. That's when now it's getting to the point where that can be forecasted. And we'll talk about that in a minute. And then when you're between that quote or close is like active negotiation, there could be questions about shipping, financing, pricing, a certain feature, something along those lines could still be up in the air. That's around 90%. You're not closed yet, but you're really, really close. And of course, closing is 100%. So in your CRM, most CRMs, you can actually customize the different stages and put percentages in there, right? And I can show you how to do that. But that's really important. So now you can actually see where you stand as a company for each salesperson, but also forecasting in the big picture, right? So I'll show you that an example right here. So this is how you can really help track your business. And I put that scoreboard there because I've talked to a lot of, again, business owners where forecasting remains a challenge, especially in a smaller company. You always want to know the score of the game. And I happen to be a Celtics fan, so that's why I put that there. So for instance, if you have 4 sales reps, right, and you have all the stages in the pipeline, stages of the sales process established, and you have a corresponding percentage with each one, now you can start to measure how many prospects or deals are in each stage. So for instance, Joe has 3 prospects at 50%. That's moved all the way to around, at least they've had a demo or a second meeting. He has three prospects at 75%, which is now heading towards the right direction of closing, and 1 prospect at 90. Just a few more things to button up and it's going to close. All right. So in this example, if we're selling a product that's average order value is $1,200, when I typically work with clients or in my past, working, you really want to only forecast 75% or 90, right? Those are the ones that are getting close. Most companies want to only forecast, the ones that I recommend are 75 and 90%. So in this example, Joe has about $4,800 that he's forecasting this particular month or quarter that are 75 or 90%. That's great. Then you add Joe has already sold $1,200 this month. So his monthly projection of forecast and also what he sold is $6,000. If Joe has a goal of $8,000, so he's still $2,000 short. And in this example, I always like to put how many sales does the salesperson need and need to go after and get to hit their goal, right? In this case, Joe needs close to two sales to hit his goal, right? So again, this is linked to the sales process, linked to your CRM. And for me as a business owner, I want to see this for a number of reasons. I want to see what my forecast looks like for the month. So if I'm the business owner, I can see I have 11 deals at 75%. I have 4 deals at 90%. So I get 15 deals in play this month. That's good. So I have $18,000 in forecast. We've only sold about $4,000 as a team. So right now the projection's at $22,000. I'm $10,000 short, right? And as a company, we need about 8 more sales or deals to close this month. So to hit our number, I always want to know what I need. Now I want to go ahead and help the team get those 8 deals, right? So I don't want to go too deep in this, but this is also great for coaching. When you're having one-on-one meetings, if you have time, you can sit down with each one of them and go through their pipeline, see where they're at, help them along the way. And also, for instance, Tom only has 2 deals at 75 and 0 at 90. And he's way off his quota. So this, in this instance, will be a coaching opportunity to find out what Tom is doing, where he needs help, and so forth. He could be a new rep, or he could be somebody who's, taking Fridays off. You don't know, but this again gives you exposure to understand where each person is. So hopefully that makes sense. They all play together. So, for time, I want to just kind of wrap up some closing thoughts here. Number one, I'm hoping as you look at this, you're just taking a quick self-assessment to see where you might have gaps, right? And I speak about the whole infrastructure when it comes to ICP and value proposition, sales process. Do you have a compensation plan in place that's aligned with your company goals? All those things. And also when it comes to sales process, take an inventory. Do you have one? Is it on paper? Is it repeatable? Does the sales team understand it? Is it aligned with your CRM? And also, like we just talked about, is it able to now help you forecast? And there's ways to do that and help you out there. We didn't talk a lot about it, but having this structure, not only with sales process, but other pieces, really will help you retain your talent on your team, but also recruit. Again, depending what business you're in, most salespeople that have been at different companies or are high performers, they want that structure. And if they understand that those things aren't there, that could be a barrier for some folks. So having that structure in place and that coaching and all those things will help you attract and keep your talent, which I think is something I just wanted to pass on there. Having one-on-one meetings we talked about, but again, now if you've got a sales process and you've got your CRM attached to it and you can see your pipeline and your forecast, it makes your one-on-one calls easier and more impactful when you can look at those numbers and have really, constructive conversations about where they are and how you can help them hit their numbers. So, and lastly, I say this in general, going back to my time speaking with founders, don't be afraid to ask for help. For instance, I'm a fractional sales and outsourced sales leader. There's fractional CFOs and HR. Wearing a lot of hats sometimes is necessary, but having the courage to ask somebody for help, to take some of those things off your plate so you can concentrate on running the business, sometimes is the right move. So just so you know, I am here to help. You can send me an email. If you need any templates or anything like that, I'm happy to help. More times than not, I set up a quick 15, 20-minute call with the business owner. I can understand your unique needs and walk you through some solutions that may help you. So I'm hoping this was a beneficial workshop for you. I will have my contact information on this link when I post it, and also you can see it at the bottom. But I'm happy to help, and I wish you nothing but success the rest of the second quarter in 2025. Thank you.